welcome to Blackbriar Gaming. Today we're going to discuss the Legions Imperialis delay and how that has affected the products we will receive on release. While we all wish we had have gotten the game back in August, it seems that by delaying the game, Games Workshop have been able to get more product ready for a later release. I didn't realize this until reading the latest White Dwarf magazine, and you may have neither. So let's take a look. Just a quick note before we get into it, a subscribe and a like really helps us reach a bigger audience. So if you enjoyed the video, please hit those buttons down below. So what are we talking about here? We are talking about a little excerpt in the latest White Dwarf, and this actually was revealed quite some time ago in a Warcom article. I didn't see it at the time. Well, I guess I wasn't paying enough attention, but I'm sure others missed it as well. And for those that haven't read the latest White Dwarf or skipped over this little insert box, it's on the front page, essentially, of the battle report. And it says, it's a little box that says, War on an Epic Scale. Tom and James constructed their forces for this battle report using the army list presented in the Legions Imperialis rulebook. A few of their units, such as the Scimitar Jetbike Squadrons and drop pods that you'll see over the page, can be found in the first supplement for the game, The Great Slaughter. So cool. Alright, firstly, great name for a supplement. Love that. The Great Slaughter, it could be referring to a number of things. Of course, early heresy, the massacre is my assumption, but who knows? I'm really excited to see what's in that supplement book. We've heard, I don't think, anything else about it. If I'm wrong, please let me know, but this was certainly the first that I saw it. So, what does this mean? So, it sounds like originally, Games Workshop was going to release simply the box, right? The Legions Imperialis core box that we've all seen. We all know what's in it. Lots of Marines, some Solar Auxilia, some Warhounds, or they're the alternate Warhound. Maybe they're still called Warhounds. They're something slightly different with some funky weapons. But essentially, that box was going to come out in August. Now, it got delayed. There's tons of reasons why we think it might have been delayed, whether it be printing issues, they just couldn't get enough product out there, all kinds of things it could have been. But the general idea was that this rulebook and this box was going to drop in August, and then things were going to come later on. Now, I remember seeing some leaks early on about what was coming in that rulebook, and the leaks were quite, and it seems they were correct, were quite limited in the units that we were getting, particularly for the Legions. So it had all of your units that you see in the core rulebook, in the core box, I should say, and a bunch of other units, but what it didn't have was land speeders, I should say. It didn't have land raiders in there at all, I think, from memory. It didn't have jet bikes, didn't have combat bikes, didn't have drop pods. There were tons of stuff that was missing, and I particularly was disappointed because I really want to do a White Scars Legion for my first Imperialis army. I say first because I just can't help myself, and I wanted to run White Scars, so I needed a lot of jet bikes, I needed a lot of fast units, and it looked like I was not going to be able to do that when the game released. Now, this was pretty disappointing for me. Definitely dampened my hype. But since then, obviously, we've gotten a lot of articles, including the article about the release for the jet bikes and land speeders. And at first, I thought maybe the leaks were wrong, but I don't think they were. I think the leaks were correct. And now, as we can see here in this little excerpt from the White Dwarf, we know that those other units are coming in the first supplement. And because the game has been delayed, it looks like the first supplement and a bunch of the units that come in it will either release at the time that the core box drops in November, or will release very soon afterwards. So that's the impact that it's had. Other things, essentially every article that we've seen that has come out since August are units that are not in the core rulebook and that will come in later supplements. The Spartan, great example. The drop pods, the Medusas for the Solar Auxilia, those artillery, self-propelled artillery tanks. So there's pros and cons here. So essentially, it means we're going to be spending extra money on release of this game in November, because we're pretty much going to have to buy, and look, I say have to, I will be buying this supplement book on release, because I want to be able to run and get the rules for the jet bikes and land speeders, so I can run the kind of Legion that I want to run. Now, it is a little disappointing that not all Legion units were included in the initial rulebook, like we saw with Horus Heresy 28 mil, 30k, but it is what it is. They've decided to release it in this way, and that is what it is. So the bad side is, yes, it'll be a bit of extra money, no doubt, $80 or so, dollary-doos for this extra rulebook. But on the upside, it does mean that we get a much broader and more fleshed out release in November. It would have been a real shame for just the core box to drop in August and then gamers floundering for a few months, not being able to get the units they want to be able to run the types of legions they want. Drop pods and land raiders in particular. I mean, jet bikes as well, land speeds. These are all iconic units for the legions, and a lot of legions want to be running them. And I think gamers would have been a little disappointed to not be able to run a more diverse type of legion and being kind of pigeonholed into a more foot-slogging, kind of tank-heavy army, as it were. So it's almost bad, and it could have killed a bit of the hype, right? A bit of a lackluster and half-finished release it might have felt like coming out in August in that way, but coming out in November with all of these units available and the rules for them right from the start actually feels a little better. Doesn't feel great that we have to pay extra money for those rules, but it feels a little better to have a more total game. And certainly the armies that we see in the battle report in issue 493 of White Dwarf, the armies I feel look so much more interesting for the fact that they're running those extra units from the supplement. So yes, the delay is disappointing. There's no two ways around that. I certainly, my hype was dampened by that delay, but it's starting to ramp back up. And knowing that we're gonna get that supplement, those extra units, so I can run the White Scars and I can run a Legion in the way I want to and build the army I really want now, right from the get-go, and not have to wait a few months or more for those units and those rules to come out. I'm actually kind of okay about it and kind of chuffed about it that it's come out in this fashion and that we've waited for the release. So that's it. I just wanted to talk about this one because this might have been something that people were missing. I didn't want anyone to be surprised that this supplement was dropping around the same time that the core box will come out in November. It's not fun to get surprised by having to spend a bit of extra money. This is the only place I've seen it mentioned. It's a very sneaky little sentence in amongst a lot of information. So I thought I'd throw it out there, make a video about it. That is pretty much it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments if you would have preferred Legions Imperialis to have dropped in August with a limited release, or if you're happy, kind of like I am, to have waited a little bit longer for a more fleshed out games to get the kind of units we want to run and a more diverse selection of units right from the start. Importantly, make sure to keep rolling those dice and getting hyped for Heresy.